Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant Chess Points. Today we are at the next topic, that is all about exchanging. We are at the fifth lesson of our topic. So far we have discussed some rules about exchanging. There are some more rules which we will discuss later. I thought it's time to review those rules and see how masters use these rules in their games. So I have taken a game example here. This is Botvinnik Vs Boleslavesky black, and white we can see is a pawn up. He is looking to convert the game, and we see many principles which we have discussed here coming into action. It's white to play and win. It's not a forced win position, but white to play, and white is trying to make use of all the exchanging factors to get a winning position. So candidate moves which will come to mind, we can see are knight into e5, the queen is attacked. Most people would play the move queen a4, protecting c2. We can see that both white and blacks, both back rank are weak. So white is also looking to reach a rook endgame which can be winning, because he is able to trade many pieces. So we have got this ne5 and queen e8 candidate moves as well. In the game, Botvinnik went with knight e5. The rule says whenever ahead in material, we try to exchange one. Second, we exchange in order to get the open file. So after knight e5, this turns out to be an excellent move. The first point is after rook c6, white will just go nf7, kg8, nd8. When after rook d8, not rook e8 check, because c2 would be lost. What he would do there, he will just play c4, and we see these two pawns. Now after b5, one rook will come behind the pawn, one will protect from the side, and white will be able to win the game very easily. Let's see. Rook c6, knight f7, kg8, knight d8, rook d8, and we see the simple c4 followed by b5, and white will be able to convert the game very easily. Here if black goes for rook into e8, rook into e5, sorry, then rook into e5, fe5, and now white can just go queen e4. Very strong and effective. Again same idea, the e5 pawn is blocked. We know two rules for the passed pawn. The passed pawn must be blocked. This is black's passed pawn which has been blocked, and white is trying to now push his own passers. We say passer or passed pawn must be pushed. So white is going to use again c4, b5. This rook might come behind the passer. Right now e5 is under attack. So this is again winning for white. Black went fe5. We have discussed before also, the best opportunity for the defender is to go for a major piece endgame, that is having queen and two rooks, both of them, or at least queen and one rook endgame. Otherwise another good option would be pure queen endgame, and white would be happy to get a rook endgame in this position. See the technique used by Botvinnik. Once again, he uses the concept again, exchange in order to get into winning position, okay, and exchange in order to get the open file. So see, queen into e8. This must have been a bit unexpected by black. Queen e8 and rook e5. See tactics to reach a winning endgame. And now we see if queen goes to g8, which is I think almost the forced move, then re8. And we will see that black will get c2, but white will manage a rook behind the passed pawn position, and white will be winning. Let's see how. So black goes qg8, rook e8. Of course, queen e8, rook e8 is mate. So rook c2, rook wants to now come to b2, but comes rook g8, kg8, rook b1. Many people must or may know this endgame, because this rook endgame is a very famous one. Botvinnik converts the game brilliantly and with ease. The rook is placed behind the passed pawn. Many players play the rook behind when the pawn is not a passed pawn yet, but here the pawn is already a passer. Rook is very nicely placed behind it, because it will enable the pawn to reach till the last rank. It controls all the squares till there, and white will be able to use his king timely. A very nice technical phase continues. we'll have a look at this in full. I will try to make the moves quickly. Black goes kf7, b5, king e6, and now comes b6. White is immediately threatening b7, so black rushes back, rook c8, and now the idea is if b7, then rook will go to b8, kd6 and kc7. Meanwhile, white will use the rules of king and pawn, and again the outside passer is there. We do what is we deflect the black king towards the outside passer, and our king goes and captures the pawn on the opposing wing. But white has to be little bit careful over here. Instant b7 is not good because of rook b8. When we see after kd6, kg1, kc7, kf2, rook b7, kb7, ke3, kd6, ke4, and king d6. And we see that the black king manages to the d6 square on time. White goes h3, and now rook b8, kh2, kd5, kg3, kc6. White is again ready to give up the pawn, and he is ready to take his king to the opponent's pawns. What should white play here? So white goes kg4, avoiding the idea of king f4. After king f4, rook check, and the king can settle in front of the pawn. And now white is setting a very simple and subtle trap. After rook b6 comes rook into b6, king b6, king f5, kc5, ke6, kd4, king f7. And it's apparent that white is way ahead in this race, and he will win the game. Now after g5, kg7, we see h5 allows king g6, and both pawns would be lost. So ke3, king h7, king f2, g4, kg3, kh6, kh3, kg5, and white wins. So the move kg4 is an important one in the process. Black plays king b7. An important idea in the defender's plan. King will handle the rook and pawn, and the black rook is free, which will try to tackle the king's entry into the black position. So this is a standard defensive technique. Similarly, white also has a standard way of countering this defensive technique. Once we see that the king has gone to the defense of the pawn, now this rook will ultimately have to become active in order to be able to convert the game. So now this rook we will use to infiltrate into the position and attack the pawns on g7 and h7. Here white has a very strong and instructive idea. Rook e1. Good move. King b6 again allows rook b1, rook b8, followed by same maneuvering with king f5, ke6, where we see the black king is even worse. And now whenever b6 is attacked, next move rook e6 will enable white to defend the b6 pawn for some time, and after improving the position, he will approach the pawns on g7 and h7. Let's play the remaining moves quickly and see what. So now comes rook g8, rook e6, king a6. Black is compelled to wait, because if he moves the g pawns or h pawn on his own, white king will get an entry point. Now this is the final phase where white has to make some progress or plan which will lead to some progress. So the final attempt, again the rule says whenever we are unable to convert the position, there is no particular plan. So we change the pawn structure. And how we change the pawn structure? Again exchanging will come. We will trade a pawn or two and make entry into the position. So white has a plan of going h4, h5, h6, which will destroy black's pawns, and the white king will get entry. So kg5, kb7, and white starts going h4, g4, h5, h6 without losing the g pawn, of course. h5, kb7, and the waiting game for black goes on. g4, king a6, setting traps, small traps. Now h6 allows gh, king h6, rook g4, position would be drawn. So now white waits, he goes king h4 first, kb7, and the key moment of the plan, white goes direct h6. Somewhat better than g5 followed by h6, because white wants to take with the rook here. g6 would get us into a losing position instantly. There will be kg5 followed by rook e7 and winning both these pawns. If rook hides on h8, then king f6, kg7 and h7 is lost. So gh6 force, rook takes h6, rook g7, king h5, and by now we must realize that white has made his plan very clear. He will move the rook to f6, pawn to g5, king to h6, and finally force this rook to leave the pawn on h7. The white rook can go from behind and take the pawn on h7. The problem is that the b pawn is not letting black king come to the other side of the board. So what will happen? Always the king will remain far away and all the rook endgames will resemble Lucena position, or all the king and pawn endgames will be winning for white. King a6 was played in the game. Rook c6, another good move. That is rook c7, rook f7. A clear track that after kb7, rook c7, bc7, kc7, kh6, kd7, king h7, and we see that the white pawn would have quit. So black waits, rook c7, rook e5 check, g5, king takes b6, rook takes h7, king c6, and white can win here in many ways. He can just go rook f7, kh6, g6 when we see that the king will be cut by white's rook, or he can play king h6 immediately now as played by Botvinnik. King h6, kd6, g6, because we see that rook f7 is unstoppable. So white didn't play rook f7 first. re1, rook f7, ke6, and rook f2. So we can say that the maneuvering is now complete. White is all set to go g7. If rook gives check, king can hide from h7, g8 to f8, and he will win. Now we are going to reach the exact Lucena position. Rook a1, g7, rook h1 check, kg6, rook g1 check, king h7, rook h1 check, kg8, ke7. Exactly getting us to the Lucena position. And if we know the technique, you can check out my lessons on Lucena position. The rook needs to come on the 4th rank. First we will have to put the king away. So rook e2 check, kd7, and rook e4, and white wins. Rook h2, kf7, rook check, kg6, rook g2 check, kf6, rook f2 check, kg5, rook g2, rook g4, and black resigns. Of course, the endgame was a bit lengthy and was not just about exchanging, it was also about conversion of the position in the rook endgame. I hope you are finding these lessons useful. Do like, share, and subscribe the channel. Thanks for your time.